Hello and welcome to Now Through Glasse We See. My name is Glen Alexander and thank you very much for watching this video in which we're going to have a look at some amazing windows. We'll start at the beginning with the first of Shakespeare's sonnets. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty's rose might never die. Where you can see in the second line, rose is in italics. And I'm now going to show you this immortal rose. This is Westminster Abbey, where you can see this lovely golden flaming lamp, which seems to be quite centrally placed amid the surrounding monuments of this section. To the right of it, we have our first important window. You'll notice a convenient marble fronting covered with coats of arms. Sonnet 2 says in its opening line, "When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and later shall some my count." And if you have a look at the centrally positioned shield of this section, we have an X. An X in Roman numerals is 10. And counting the X's on the shields, we have 10, 20, 30, and the last one is on the window itself, 40. There's our 40 from Sonnet 2. This is the window of Edwardus Primus Rex, Edward I. You can see a lion emerging out from behind a robe with his paw almost on a sweet swan, but cunningly hidden behind this marble fronting, we have our rose from Sonnet 1. Beauty's rose might never die, bright eyes feeds thy light's flame, both references to light. And only heralds, well, heralds are someone who issues coats of arms. We do have coats of arms in front. World's fresh ornament is lovely because or in heraldic terms or coats of arms terms means gold, and that is a golden rose. In the centre we have the bird of Zeus or Jove on top of some lightning bolts, and 4 O's, a very cunning 40 on the rose itself. Sonnet number 3. Look in thy glass and tell the face thou viewest, now is the time that face should form another. Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. And this is the window of Edward Primus. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of wrinkles, this thy golden time. Sonnet 126 also has a glass reference to do with time, time's fickle glass, his sickle, which will make sense in a minute. Returning to our golden lamp, if we go to the left of it, we have our second important windows. These are the windows of Edward the Confessor and Edwin Abbas. There seems to be a lot of Eds. However, at the top of this window, we have a beautiful golden falcon beneath the coat of arms of Edward the Confessor and looking down on him. The falcon is so named because of her pounces and crooked talons, which do bend like unto a scythe or sickle, which in Latin is called falx. So in other words, our sickle is our falcon, his sickle or falcon made of glass. Now, I like to do evidence, and how I originally found these windows was because of this book, The Ascendance of Armoury, a book all about coats of arms and how to describe them correctly, told me to look there. And here in this escutcheon, a shield, is to be noted that my cutter hath done a fault, and faults often tell us things in this game. In this art do commit the like faults very often, as, for example, the glasser that glassed the Temple Church windows on the north side, that hath set the arms of England so out of order as the lions are going out of the field, so that neither the glasser pane, as in window painter, nor any that cutteth in stone may do in these things without the advice of the heralds or heralds, for the like fault also is committed in St. Catherine's Church upon a tomb. And these are the northern windows in the northern aisle of Westminster Abbey. Here's another fault in the Book of Falconry. The page number should read 198. Some fresh, cool chamber, much like Westminster Abbey. And it also references some north windows, 2 windows not very large, whereof that one should open towards the north and the other towards the east, to take the fresh cool air or the comfort of the sun at her pleasure. These win-doors must be open, barred overwrought with laths or thin boards, as our Westminster Abbey windows are, so thick that neither your hawks may get out, nor your cat may come in. And most necessary to set some large basin or other vessel full of water, which reminds me of a font. And lastly, here's a third book referencing these windows, Ben Jonson's 1616 Complete Works, page 104, which falls upon his play Every Man Out of his humour. But he goes to church, I am sure, would I might see his face. Remember Sonnet 3, now is the time that face should form another. She should let down a glass from the window at that word, and request him to looked in't. Notice the E on the end of look. Entreat her beauties to shine on this side of the building. Then an incredibly significant side note. Gent leaves the window. Look, look, as if he went in a frame, lest he should leap out on't. You may have noticed there's no north reference in this one, but there is something even better. Now a man had need walk, and there's an E on the end of that walk, just like there was on look, walk uprightly before thee, which is ever so convenient, given in front of these windows, or before them, you have the grave of Ben Jonson, who is the playwright of this play, and what's more, is the only person in Westminster Abbey who is buried standing upright. Remarkable. Hearts, can any man walk more upright than he does? Oh, rare Ben Jonson. He's also very rare because he has 3 dedicated stones to him, which is by no means normal, including one by the Earl of Oxenford with a similar golden lamp on top, albeit not flaming, and a portrait medallion depicting Ben Jonson. You might also notice there are 3 masks beneath with a ribbon through the eyes. 3 masks, 3 stones. Above his grave is a quote from Psalms 104. Interesting, given this is page number 104, and 10/4s are also 40. In wisdom hast thou made them all. Also above this verse is a princely falcon, crowned and holding a sceptre upright, although his head is looking back in the regardant or bastard position. And Hamlet, another prince, does say, things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. So there's our falcon, our feathered creature from Sonnet 143 that's made swift dispatch. Not hard, given the peregrine falcon is the fastest animal in the world. That will certainly prove difficult to catch. But there's also a neglected child, not prizing her infant's discontent, whilst I thy babe. Now the I is incredibly significant in the sonnets, which is why it's capitalised on the frontispiece, and I explain why in my videos The Secret of the Sonnets, where in part 2 we learn it's the sound of the I. In phonetics, it's the diphthong vowel the bard brilliantly makes use of. You can hear this in the word cries, whilst I, thy babe, chase thee far behind, but if thou catch thy hope, turn back to me and play the mother's part, kiss me, be kind. If thou turn back, and my loud crying still, so will I pray that thou mayst have thy will. Here's Shakespeare's funerary monument in Holy Trinity Church, Stratford-upon-Avon. Since we're talking about eyes, from Sonnet 137, why of eyes, falsehood, hast thou forged hooks? And lo and behold, beneath the monument we have 3 hooks, our false idol. Here's our feathered creature. If thou turn back, says Sonnet 143, and if we turn back we find this wonderful window, whilst I, thy babe, chase thee afar behind. At the bottom is a quote from the Bible, which is directing us to a scene this window is depicting, Elijah's sacrifice. Elijah, can you hear the I in his name? Elijah? This is from 1 Kings, or I Kings, chapter 18, verse 32. And with the stones he built an altar in the name. This is to do with Elijah, who's challenged the prophets of the false idol Baal to take an ox and build an altar, and he will also do the same. Then, as verse 24 sets out, call upon the name of your gods, and I will call on the name of the Lord. And the God that answereth by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, It is well spoken. Just clock what he's done with that E of answereth by fire. It has been hyphened and beneath name of. Now, this poet has had a hand in the translation of the 1611 King James Bible, one of the first and most influential English Bibles and books. Whilst he always maintains the sanctity of the text, he also employs some starring, hyphens, pilcrows and side notes, etc. in particular places to ingeniously reveal other things, as with the hyphened E, which will become clear shortly. Anyway, the prophets of Baal cry from morn to night and even start cutting themselves with their spears, crying to their false idol, but no answer. Then Elijah's turn. He calls on the Lord and says, Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their heart back again. Turn back to me, says the sonnet. Then the fire of the Lord fell. Now that we know Elijah is important, we notice he's clothed in white with gold E's on him. There's our familiar Westminster windows, and there's our E on the window of Edward the Confessor and E on the window of Edward Primus. I particularly love the E's as they go around the top of the windows, where the E on its side becomes a golden skull, much akin to the black skull atop the funerary monument. And from another relevant verse, 1 or I Corinthians chapter 13, verse 12, for now we see through a glass, in a riddle, darkly. But then face to face, now I know in part, but then shall I know even as I am known. Remember Sonnet 3, look in thy glass, but then face to face, face to face, now is the time. Now I know in part, but then shall I know E. And there's our same cunning E you saw before. I am known. You may also notice this E is surrounded by now I know contains now, and also I am known, now I, E. The Shakespeare monument in Westminster Abbey has been trying to point this E in temples out to you for some time. His arms are also in a reflected E shape, and the word temples in Sumerian itself also means E. And as Hamlet says, and in this harsh world, draw thy breath in pain to tell my story. Pain, as in window pane, and an E on the end. And indeed it does tell his story. But why are these E's important, you may be wondering? Here's Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, the leading candidate in the Shakespeare authorship debate, thought by many from Freud to Sir Roger Penrose to be the true author of Shakespeare. And as they say, there's no smoke without fire. Why E? Because it's the most characteristic letter in his name, Edward de Vere, appearing 4 times, the first and last letter bounding his name. And actually, we do even have a contemporary playwright and poet to Shakespeare, John Marston, who tells us this in his 1598 The Scourge of Villainy, Satire number 9. Here's a toy to mock an ape indeed. Far fly thy fame, most of me beloved, whose silent name 1 letter bounds. And indeed, our 1 letter E bounds. Thy true, vir in Latin means true, judicial style, I ever honour. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't give you the last 3 lines of this poem mocking our poet ape, or by the ever-living verity I'll strip you naked and whip you with my rhymes, causing your shame to live to after times. This is the bust of Edward de Vere from Hedingham Castle, the ancestral home of the Earl of Oxford, which is great and very much worth a trip. Behind him you have an article questioning whether he was Shakespeare. I wonder what he's looking at. It also happens we have 4 E's on the end of the last 4 lines of the prefatory poem to the first folio. This is the figure of addition, adding a single letter to extend or change the meaning of a word, in this case our E. It's one of the simplest figures of rhetoric as taught in Book 3, Chapter 11 of this wonderful book, The Art of English Poesy. You may also notice the E has been italicised into the reader, another quite daring hint to the E. This preface, of course, is by Ben Jonson. In Book 3, Chapter 19 of The Art of English Poesy, you will find the figures of counterfeit representation and counterfeit countenance. O rare Ben Jonson. This figure is Ben Jonson. Ben Jonson is a rhetorical figure. He is a counterfeit countenance, a persona, a mask, hence the mask below this portrait medallion. In wisdom he has been made by our true poet. In other words, the preface is written by the same poet who wrote the folio. After all, the job of a playwright is to write believable characters. Returning to our windows and viewing them all together, we have Edward Primus with our rose at the bottom, Edward the Confessor, which is very witty if you think about it, with our falcon at the top, Elijah with our I sound in his name, our golden E's, our flaming ox, proof by fire, the Earl of Oxford's monument to Johnson, with our golden lamp, like the golden lamp between these 2 windows. But wait, you say, there aren't any added E's in the Ben Jonson stones. Well, actually, H has its origins in the Greek eta, which is an E sound. Epsilon on the right is another E sound. So your eta, your H, is an E. And in English is also conveniently a silent letter. Perfect for a cunning figure of addition, which you can see has been added into Johnson, which is not how he normally spells his name. Genius. So seeing this all together, it becomes crystal clear Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford, is the true poet of Shakespeare. Here's the Earl of Oxenford to the reader. Oxenford, there's our glass ox. The labouring man that tills the fertile soil and reaps the harvest fruit hath not indeed the gain but pain, and for all his toil he gets the straw. I'm pretty sure that oxen quite like hay and straw, pain referring to our window pane. He pulls the flower, there is our flower, our rose. Greyhounds, you'll find the greyhounds directly opposite the Shakespeare monument in Westminster Abbey, which start a wonderful game I'll speak of in a moment. You'll notice they're above another coat of arms with a scroll beneath that says, "He wins with the law of arms." And indeed he does, as I wouldn't have found these windows if not for the accedents of armoury. Speedy haste away, the pain to pen the book. Here's something else that's very speedy and on another window pane. Goodly golden mews. A mews is also a term for where you keep falcons, and that is a golden falcon. For he that beats the bush the bird not gets, but who sits still and holdeth fast the nets, which refers to the wonderful falconer's sport of daring, which you can read in the Book of Falconry, where you use greyhounds to start this game and spring the fowl, i.e. get the prey up in the air, but then this confused prey, fearing the falcon overhead, tries to escape by lying as close and flat to the ground as possible, and so is taken in our patiently awaiting nets we've been holding fast. You may also notice on the end of Oxenford we have our additional E, for he that beats the bush, honey from the bee, and indeed we do have quite a few additional E's that needn't be there. The finis colonat opus, the crown that ends the work, our E. If you would also like to know more about the I he magnificently uses and some other exciting revelations too, you can watch that in my videos, The Secret of the Sonnets. Thank you for watching, and may this eternal poet Edward no longer be a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass, but be set free, and now receive the sweet glory he rightly deserves. Thank you.